Welcome to another inspiring episode of the Elite Expert Insider Podcast. Hosts Melanie Johnson and Jenn Foster are the owners of Elite Online Publishing. They're both Wall Street Journal, USA Today best-selling authors. We're really glad you're here because this podcast was designed for you. Meet industry experts that share their secrets and strategies. Get successful results for your business in money, relationships, health, and your life. Each episode is going to inspire you to take action towards reaching your greatness.
Hey everyone, it's Melanie Johnson with my business partner of Elite Online Publishing, Jenn Foster. Hey, Jenn.
Hey everyone, how's it going today?
Man, it's a fantastic day. I am so excited and so proud to have Donna Peters with us today. She is one of our authors at Elite Online Publishing that went through our whole process with VIP Day, where we started to create her book and hone her story all the way through the editing, the publishing, the marketing. She hit #1 bestseller in 9 categories in 2 countries. Her book, Options Are Power, is just amazing, over the top. And I told her in the green room here that I am putting it on my read once a year list, not just one time list, because it's that good. So I want to ask you, if you are a high performer who wants your career on your own terms, maybe you're just wanting to know what the next step is and you're feeling stuck and you've just been feeling like you want more. Well, this book is going to teach you how to get the options to be in control and to make those decisions. So to run from nothing to something and have clarity. So Donna Peters, welcome to our podcast today.
Thank you so much for having me. And thank you for being on this journey with me.
Yes, we're really excited to dive into the meat of your book. Tell us, Donna, a little bit about your background and how you became an executive coach.
Okay. I think about my career as having 3 main buckets in it. I started out in a very non-traditional path and was a professional actor for a little over 10 years. And for a lot of variety of reasons we won't go into today, I decided, after spending an enormous amount of time dedicated to that career, I decided to pivot to business. I went back to business school and started a strategy consulting career for about 20 years after that, where I joked I acted like I knew what I was doing for 20 years, blending my acting with my business. And I decided to retire from that 20-year career and pivot into executive coaching, just based on that life journey of learning and recognizing that I had differentiated skills and value to bring in that area. And so in January of 2020, I launched my full-time executive coaching practice as a certified executive coach. And an enormous component of doing that was being able to bring my learnings and methodology and approach that made its way into the book to help my clients. So that's how we got to today.
What a great journey. I want to start kind of diving into the beginning of the book. Like one of the first things you talk about is your personal brand.
Yeah.
What people think and say when they first meet you, and why is that important? And talk about, how you dissect that in your book.
Yeah, thanks for pulling that one out, because it is one of my personal passion favorites. Personal brand is what people think and feel when they hear your name. And sometimes people struggle with the concept of personal brand because they think, well, if I'm managing my personal brand, I'm marketing and I'm influencing and I'm manipulating, and they shy away from it because they fear it will feel inauthentic. But really, you have a personal brand right now. Anybody listening right now has a personal brand, and you can choose to manage it or not, because you have one, whether you want one or not. And so in the book, I have an entire section around being thoughtful and knowledgeable about how you are currently perceived. And then I offer up some tools and techniques for how do you determine really what is your personal brand. And when you reflect back on what you learn, is it signaling what you want to be attracting in the world for yourself, whether it's for professional development or for personal development? And just like all of us, we go through different phases across that journey, and our personal brand will evolve and change and grow. But my bias and my advice to anyone is you have a personal brand, whether you want one or not, so own it.
I like that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, tell us, you say in the book, lead with a me suite mindset, and you have a podcast called the Me Suite Podcast, right?
Yeah.
Explain what does me suite mean?
Okay. So because people can't see the words, I'm going to spell it for a moment, and that will help. Me as in you and me, and suite as in executive suite, SUITE, not sweet like candy. So the Me Suite is a play on C-suite. So for business people, if you have or haven't been out there in C-suite buzzword land, the C-suite are the chiefs that sit in the leadership team of a company. So chief financial officer, chief marketing officer, chief executive officer, all of those chiefs are members of what we call the C-suite. And in my coaching practice, my methodology is anchored in the neuroscience of leadership. My approach is that we as individuals need to be leading our own personal lives with the same disciplines that C-suites are leading the companies that we most admire. These C-suite leaders wake up every day marshaling the core values of the company, keeping the day-to-day operations running smoothly, and keeping that company relevant for the future. And all those three things, my personal core values, my day-to-day operations, me staying relevant for the future I want to live in, requires thinking like a C-suite of leaders. And I call it the Me Suite. So that was the origin of the Me Suite, the name of both my coaching practice as well as my podcast.
Love that. And I love that we really were wrapping our head around, the Me Suite when we first got together and what all that means.
Yeah.
Now, in your book, you talk about skills and strengths and thinking creatively and broadly about the value that you bring. Walk us through that.
Yeah. So I get very sad when a client comes to me and feels stuck or trapped because they want more, but they're not quite sure what it is. And they probably have been boxed in their career into a very specific set of activities, or they're very known for only one thing and they can't really break out of it as hard as they try. And part of that is unlocking that is thinking very broadly and creatively about the skills and the strengths that we have. And the easiest example that I could maybe use here to illustrate it quickly is somebody that's a CPA, a certified public accountant. They may not want to be a CPA anymore. And they're wondering, well, gosh, I went to all that schooling. I got all those certifications. The only thing I can be is a CPA. Well, yes. And if you are a CPA, what are you? What are your underlying skills and strengths? You are probably, number one, a very good puzzle solver. You probably are very good at forensic data analytics activities. You probably are very good at weaving a story out of the data and analysis that you're finding. And there are so many other careers and jobs where you can apply a CPA skill set if you think more broadly and creatively about the skill set, rather than just, I'm a certified public accountant. And I even have a client who was a CPA and was very disheartened, unmotivated by that particular career path at this certain time. And he ended up taking those skills and pivoting to a career in clinical trial research for oncology pharmaceutical products. And if you think about it on a sheet of paper, it looks a little wacky, but in reality, it's so logical, because he was running clinical trial operations for patients to bring new oncology products to the market and help people save lives. And the core of that job was gathering data and analytics from patients' clinical trial data. He was having to log it and analyze it, create reports and filings to get the drugs approved. And if you really think about those core skills and strengths, they are common denominator what he was doing as a CPA, but he was applying them in a very different area that had more meaning and purpose to him at that moment in his life. So I hope that example is a good one to illustrate what it means to think creatively and broadly about your skills and strengths.
Yeah, that tells me that's a really good analogy. I really like that.
Oh, good.
So tell us a little bit about the physical and mental health that you need to control and to have in your life for the Me Suite.
Yeah, this is a really interesting area. I have a chapter on physical and mental health because as Melanie mentioned before, the name of the book is Options Are Power. And the whole concept behind that is if you have options and you're surrounded by options, you have the right, but not the obligation to make a change. And we know from neuroscience that when we don't feel we have options, we're trapped. And that is a very, very negative feeling to feel out of control. Mm-hmm. There are so many things we cannot control about our health. But the spirit here around physical and mental health in the book is be knowledgeable, be proactive, control the controllables. Because if you don't have a lot of options because of your physical and mental health, the other options available to you around your career and other personal growth opportunities are quite limited. So it's really just under the spirit of let's have very open and transparent conversations about our physical and mental health needs and be very knowledgeable about what it means to take care of yourself. And that sounds like a personal thing, but it weaves into all of the work we do as working professionals. Because any career working professional who is in a full-time position, in my example, it's going to be for a full-time position. And if you're multitasking, now would be a great time to listen to this one thing I'm going to say. We are awake working or doing something related to work more hours in the week than we're awake doing nothing related to work. And that's why it's so important that we are finding work and career that is allowing us to not just serve the financial needs that we have and the intellectual stimulation needs that we have, but also the physical and mental health needs. It all has to come together.
You want to have fun and enjoy what you do, and even have clients that you enjoy being with. Don't work with people that are stressing you out. So, and you're one of the clients we love being with. Like if they say, who's your target client? We say Donna Peters. We want to just, have more of her if we can. We just, put her on the copy machine and get more of them. That would be great.
Well, thank you for that.
So tell me about, you talk about finances, making informed and great decisions, planned decisions about money, because that can be such a complicated thing. I think so many of us don't have financial literacy in this country. Even super successful people don't have financial literacy. Yeah.
So again, you don't really have a lot of options and control if you are not in control of your finances. And this does not mean go sell your soul to the devil and make as much money as you possibly can, sacrificing all of your core values and principles. It does not mean that. What it does mean is be knowledgeable about money. And the simplest example I can give here is home ownership. I think we often grow up in the United States thinking that home ownership is the pinnacle of being mature, responsible as an adult. But there are many situations where home ownership may not actually be the best financial decision when you really think of the total ownership cost of a home, not just the mortgage, but the maintenance and the furnishing, the repairs, money tied up in a very significant investment, depending how often your family may travel or move. It works really well for some people. It is not always the end all and be all for every person. But unless you sit down and do the financials and get really smart about the total cost of ownership of having a mortgage and a home, you really aren't making a well-balanced decision. And so that's what this section around making planful decisions about money, it requires you, challenges you to be fully informed about the decision that you're making. One decision might be going back to graduate school. How do I think about that decision financially? One might be around investing. One of them might be knowledgeable, not just about raising children, but taking care of aging parents. So it goes into a lot of different areas that are just reality checks for all of us. Just be smart about money. And if that's not your core strength, surround yourself with the proper experts. The same way you might go get a real estate agent to buy a home, perhaps you need a financial planner to help you think through some of these complexities.
I don't want to give too much away in the book, but can you tell us the Barracuda story?
Oh, the Barracuda. And yes, we do mean the fish. We have a picture in the book. The book alone is worth it just for that picture, isn't it?
Yes, definitely.
It's pretty funny. There in my home on the wall is a 7-foot stuffed barracuda. that when my husband and I were new in our marriage and we barely had 2 nickels to rub together, he went on a fishing trip with a buddy. And fast forward, bad things happened to good people. And before I knew it, he had caught a 7-foot barracuda and decided it was a wonderful idea to have it taxidermied at 21% APR on a credit card. And I was livid. And we still hang it on the wall to this day as a symbol of a financial money moment that mattered in our relationship. And just as a reminder of how important it is to have conversations that are uncomfortable, because we're in it together. And if we don't have a shared alignment around how we're going to run ourselves as a corporation, then we make decisions that are not in support of the other person. So that's the Barracuda. And at Christmas time, it gets a red bow on its neck.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's a great lesson learned. And I love the 21% APR.
Yes.
When I was teaching my kids about money, I said, when you are not paying your credit cards, it's like you borrowed money from the mafia. You're paying that. It's really equivalent to that when you think about how much that is. So I'm like, you've got to only spend money that you have money to pay for every month. Yeah. Otherwise, it's really can add up fast. All right. I love what you say. What will you do differently on Monday? That's really next step.
Yeah.
Great title for your chapter.
Yes. So, and that chapter of what will you do differently on Monday is based on research from the about 250 interviews that I've done on the Me Suite podcast. We're now in season 4 of the podcast. And I did research from the people that I have interviewed. They are executives from every type of career path you could ever imagine, and a beautiful wide range of diversity of people. And the thing that I ask at the close of every single interview is, what advice do you have for things that we could start doing differently on Monday to lead our lives with a Me Suite mindset? And some people say, order the small, not the large. The advice could be as simple as that. But other people get very philosophical and they say, if you're not doing what you love, do something different. Or some people might say the number one skill that we're missing in leadership today is listening. So in your next meeting, what you can do differently on Monday is don't be the first person to speak. So it's a real broad range of aspirational and practical advice that is coming from what I call the Me Suite community.
I love that. I think your book is so inspirational. And I think we were talking about this before we started recording. This is a book that you should read every year because it reminds, your life's changing all the time. So do you want to address that a little bit?
Yeah, there is a chapter in the book called Primacy. It's a core part of my methodology, which is to give you tools for identifying what at this moment in your life is your primacy, and it will naturally change. And primacy is the most important thing to you at this moment. And this ebbs and flows for all of us. And you can think about it. I think we all have experiences where we recognize our primacy might have changed. But the key is looking yourself in the mirror and really deciding what really truly has primacy right now. I'll sometimes have clients who will say, oh, my primacy is to get the most senior title I possibly can at my career. And then you realize, wait a minute, it actually isn't about the title. It's about the pay that you want to receive. It really isn't about the title. It's about the compensation. And other people are more differently reflective, and they'll say, I really don't care what type of work I'm doing as long as I have the flexibility to focus on my kids. And that's going to change for us just depending on who we are, what phase we are in our lives. But the hard work is being really honest with yourself about what truly has primacy, because not everything can be equally important.
Let's talk a little bit about your motivation to write this incredible book. And what you hope it will do for other people, and what you hope it will do in changing your career by having the book.
Yeah. So I mentioned I had been in management consulting for about 20 years. And during that time, I counted, I must have been a supervisor, mentor, counselor for probably over 2,500 people through that time. And I started to notice that people would start repeating this phrase that I would use with them in my coaching sessions. And I would use the phrase, options are power. surround yourself with options, because I would find people so stuck or demotivated, and they didn't have to leave the company to become unstuck. They just needed to think differently and talk differently about what they wanted to open up the sea of opportunities. So I was trying to keep these wonderful talents at the company and help them recognize you actually don't have to always leave to get these new things that you want. So fast forward, after I'd heard enough people saying options are power, I go, wait a minute, they just said options are power. This might really mean something to people. And then I was so humbled and flattered by that. And I could see it making a difference in people feeling empowered about their next step, running to something, not from something, as you said, Melanie.
Yep.
And so I thought that was becoming my legacy. It was becoming the value that I was bringing in the workplace, rather than me. From a content perspective, I became quite famous for writing merger integration playbooks, and I would do back office integration for finance, procurement, HR, and IT. Try not to fall asleep while I'm saying that. And it was wonderful, right? It was needed work for merger integration, but I thought that's not what I want you talking about at my funeral. Yeah. Right. At my funeral, I want you to talk about how I inspired you to not feel stuck and to go after what you want. And so fast forward, all those things started to come together. And then I had the great privilege of being able to retire from a fabulous company that was extremely supportive of my retirement, and then bring all these things together, which I'll kind of call the full expression of myself. And that's part of, I thought it won't feel real unless I can get it in a book. Mm-hmm. If I can get it in a book, it'll be real. And that's how the journey started. And I'd been thinking about it a long time, and I needed a big fat kick in the pants. And so I got a consultation with Elite Online Publishing, and I got the big kick in the pants, and lo and behold, here we are. It's done.
And just 7 months too, I may say.
Right.
So
7 months.
From idea in your head to book in your hand was almost 7 months to the day.
That's right. That's right. And it might have even been a little faster. We deliberately delayed because of the holiday season, right? Mm-hmm. So we probably could have even done it a little bit faster, but strategically decided not to. So very, very, very pleased with all of that.
Yeah, and it's a beautiful book.
Thank you.
I'll read multiple times.
Yeah.
So Donna, tell people where they can go to find more about you and to get the book.
Certainly. So the Me Suite, the website address is themesuite.com, and it has hyphens in it. So it's the-me-suite.com. And as I mentioned before, it's suite like executive suite. You can also find me on LinkedIn. I'm extremely active on LinkedIn with thought capital and articles and points of view. And that you can find me there as Donna Peters. And then the Me Suite podcast is available on all podcast platforms and was a 2021 finalist for Best Business Podcast, and certainly available free, as all podcasts are. So I would love to hear you out there and get ideas for future episodes. So thank you for asking.
Awesome.
Thanks so much for coming. We just loved having you, loved working with you, and your book is just top notch. Again, pick it up, make sure you pick it up. And it's one of those you don't read once and put it on the shelf. You're going to want to read it every year. And if you want to be reinvigorated, remotivated, and get realigned, that's the book for you. So thanks for joining us again. Remember to subscribe to our podcast. We always have phenomenal guests, and you learn so much by being here. And if you're looking to become an author, like Donna did, and work with us, just go to our website, eliteonlinepublishing.com, hit that submission button, and we'll see if you qualify to be one of our authors. And we look forward to hearing from you. Have a great week, everyone. See you next time.
Bye.
Hey, are you looking to increase your revenue, build credibility, and elevate your brand? This podcast is brought to you by Elite Online Publishing, an innovative publishing and full spectrum marketing company. They will publish and market your book to make it a #1 bestseller. Becoming an author is the best way to market your business. So contact them at eliteonlinepublishing.com today. All of their authors become #1 bestsellers.